I think I'm going to get started. Let me set up my little script. All right. Hi, everybody. Yay. Thank you guys for joining. So I think most of you already know who I am, but I'm Lana Jean Telles. And for those who may be new here, I see a lot of familiar names on there. I'm a writer, an educator, an advocate, and the creator of Worthy and Wild. So super excited that you guys joined us tonight. This is a space centered around identity, leadership, growth, health, and what it means to live more honestly and intentionally in midlife. And so a lot of these conversations really began from my own season of questioning. And obviously, you hear this a lot, not in a dramatic way, right? Or not in a like burn my life down kind of way, although that could be an option, right? But mine's been more of like that quiet realization that many women reach, at some point where you start noticing that gap between what life you've built and the life that actually feels aligned. And so I think so many women are carrying those questions quietly, questions around identity, purpose, relationships, health, boundaries, right? Truth, what still fits, what no longer does. And that's really why this Women on Identity series was created. And so it really isn't because we have it figured out. We hear that a lot, but I think it's because there's something more powerful about women speaking honestly about the seasons that they're actually living through while they're still in them, I think is really important. And so I really want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And this is actually a conversation in Women on Identity, Conversations in Midlife. And tonight's conversation is called Questioning the Life You Built. I think we all have gone through that on some level. And so I'm really looking forward to this one because I think many women quietly reach this point at some time in their life where the life that once made sense no longer feels fully aligned anymore. Not necessarily because anything bad, right? It's just because we're ungrateful. I think something deeper starts. It just starts asking for us to be a little more honest with ourselves. So tonight I am so excited to be joined by Lauren Reisner. Hopefully I said your name correctly.
You did. I'm impressed.
Yay. And your story really touched me. But you touched on career, chronic illness, identity, expectations. There's some creativity and risk in there and what it means to finally choose a life that feels true. So I'm really happy that you're willing to join me live. Lauren, I'd really like to just start with you introducing yourself a little and then just who you are, what you write about, and maybe a little bit about the season you're in right now.
Sure. Well, I am happy to say that I'm a former lawyer. My father's not so happy that I say that, but I went to law school because I didn't know what to do with myself when I graduated, and that's where I ended up. And very long story short, ended up doing Social Security disability law for about 20 years, most recently working at Social Security. And between being a federal employee for the last year and a half, and increasing chronic illness and just a host of things coming together, I just kind of hit a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And so I started working with a career coach who is amazing. And she helped. I didn't think that she would get me anywhere because I had never known that anything else that I wanted to do. But through the course of those sessions, I figured out that I've always wanted to write and I just never thought I could. And she challenged it. And so I started writing and I haven't stopped. So now I'm writing. So my Substack, Molten Crystal, is it's a lot of things, but it's about exploration of all the things that I've been working on over the years. I was a psych major in college, so I tend to go a little bit into psych theory or neuropsychology because I find it fascinating and it helps me understand. The more I understand my brain, the more I can understand why I am the way I am. I also do fiction too. So I've just finished the first draft of my first novel, and I do some short stories and some serial fiction on my Substack as well. It's all about, everything I write is about emotional growth and exploration and trying to understand yourself better.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the things that really stood out to me in your piece was this idea that sometimes the life we build isn't wrong exactly, but it's no longer sustainable for who we're becoming. And I think a lot of women feel that before they ever acknowledge it or say it out loud. And you mentioned spending 18 years as a disability attorney and hitting a point where you realized you just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And you touch on it a little bit, but when did you first start noticing that disconnect between the life you were living and the life your body, or maybe even your deeper self? I think our body tells us what, that deeper self is trying to say. And so was asking for, was it like gradual? Did it hit you like kind of brick? Like what?
No, so it's funny because I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately, obviously. And I always never thought of myself as an ambitious person. I was always working to live, not living to work. Not that I didn't try hard and want to do well, but I never had this drive to like do more. And doing what, like, as a lawyer. And I kind of just decided that that's just, I'm not that person, and I'm happy to just live and I am. But now that I'm doing writing, I'm realizing that it was just that I wasn't ambitious in that context because I didn't want it. But I didn't know what else to do. And I'm the type of person that just, you hit your milestones and you do what you're supposed to do along the way, and you don't really question it because I don't know what the alternative is. And for better or worse, it was really when my chronic illnesses my symptoms started increasing that I had to start questioning things because I couldn't maintain my job. I wasn't succeeding at my job in a way that I used to. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I just couldn't do it anymore. And so what was I going to do instead? And so that was really, I think, the biggest reckoning for me. Before that, it was just kind of this acceptance of like, this is what I do. And I'm just, living my life. But now what I'm doing now, loving what I'm doing, I can see the difference. I can feel it. It's much more obvious.
That's awesome. I think women are incredibly skilled at enduring things long after they stop feeling right.
Yes.
Especially women, and especially high capacity women, I feel, and especially women who are, responsible. We normalize functioning while disconnecting from ourselves, which ends up showing up in a lot of different ways in our health. And so I think one of the strongest lines in your piece was when you said you're no longer willing to tolerate supposed to.
Yes.
And that hit me hard because so much identity gets built around expectation. What started shifting for you around that?
Not to bring everything back to my chronic ills, but I had a couple years ago, I had 3 surgeries in 2 years, and some bigger than others. And before the first one, when I knew I was going to be out for about 6 weeks, I consider, as you were saying, like I had all the things that I'm expected to do, and I'm trying to be super mom and super wife and super everything, and getting, and I couldn't let up, to let my husband help me when he's off, and he's offering to help me. And I just had to have everything, like tight grip on everything. And I knew I was going to be out 6 to 8 weeks where I just, we had very little kids at the time, and I physically wouldn't be able to do it. And I had to really accept help in a way that I hadn't before, because it forced me to stop and just allow people, especially my husband, who's been amazing, help me just do the daily life stuff. And then having 3 surgeries in 2 years, there were several periods of time where I was out. And I think that just kind of reinforced the idea that, and then my symptoms got worse and my chronic illnesses. And so it just, I didn't have a choice. And I had to just, work through it and accept that, I don't have to do everything. And then when I started letting go, things were easier, and it felt good, and I didn't judge myself for it anymore. So
That's
it
awesome.
was forced.
Yeah, yeah. I think midlife does this interesting thing when it starts separating performance from truth. And then, you can have the career, the responsibilities, the accomplishments, and still quietly realize you've abandoned parts of yourself along the way. You made a huge leap leaving your career without having that next thing lined up. I would love to be that brave.
I never thought I would be that person.
That's a level of trust many women never allow themselves. I'm kind of there. So what helped you finally believe that you could choose differently?
Yeah, I mean, I was at a point in my job where I had to leave I had to leave my job. I was not performing well because of mm, physical issues. And so I knew that I had to be out or they were going to help me leave. And so I had to decide what was next. And I just fell in love with writing. And I took the month of January off. I did a medical leave. And I set it up as like, this is going to be my time, because I wasn't planning on leaving my job at that point. I was just going to take the month of January and see what I could do in the writing world to figure out how to make money so that I could leave, hoping I didn't have to go back in February. I did, but, and I am very, very fortunate that my husband has been anxiously supportive of me. It was not a quick decision we had to work through, because it is scary, making sure that our finances are where they need to be. But I had enough proof of concept that my writing was good enough that I felt like, and I started understanding the freelance world a little bit better. And so I felt like I could do this in a way that I didn't ever feel before. And I think that the combination of needing to leave my job and, and when I finally got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore, and I sat down with my husband, and I said, I'm done. I'm sorry. I have to be done. And, he was amazing. And he said, yes, because I see how much happier you are and how much better you're doing. And that's more important. And so I'm very aware that most people, not most, but a lot of people don't have that kind of support. And so and he's been amazing. And that's taken the pressure off to allow me the space to explore where I'm going.
Right. That's really cool. So, I mean, you talked about this a little bit, but what fears showed up the loudest during that transition? I know money is like the first thing that pops up, but like besides that, like what were some of the fears that
I mean, there's always the question of, am I good enough? I have been joking that I picked the one career that pushes me to do all the things that I was scared of. So I'm not a great networker. So like even just being here, I had to push myself, when you put out that note looking for people, and I just have been pushing myself to do these things. I never considered myself a hustler. And now I'm like all over the freelance world trying to figure out how to make money. And so it's really forced me to develop muscles that I did not have and had accepted a long time ago that I would never have. And it's wondering if I can do it. Can I work through the things that scare me to get to where I want to be? And so far so good. Hopefully it keeps going.
Yeah, heck yeah, absolutely. We know it. I do appreciate that you talked so honestly about loneliness too. You brought that up. And reinvention, it can sound exciting when you talk about it, right? And it's kind of like cliche, reinvent, recalibrate, all that stuff. We talk about it online, right? But in real life, or as my kids say, IRL, right? Changing it can feel incredibly isolating. I have felt that too. And especially when people have known one version of you for decades, right? Did you feel like people understood your shift? Did they question it?
I
I mean, I
think
know you had a
people,
supportive
yeah,
husband, but
I think
yeah.
people really wanted to support the shift, but like you said, when you know somebody for as long as you've known them and they've been one thing and now they're doing something completely different and
Mhm.
they're identifying in a
Mhm.
completely different way and acting completely different because my confidence went up and I felt better, so I was acting in a stronger way than I had before. Um, I think it was confusing. Everybody around me wanted to. I mean, even my husband, I think, had trouble at first kind of understanding what I was trying to do, um, because I kind of just shifted. We came from this very traditional path to go to the non-traditional path, and I'm the one that kind of turned over the apple cart. So so it's and then choosing
Yeah,
something where I don't have anybody in my life that writes. So like
same.
trying to figure out how to do all of this by myself while figuring myself out and having everybody else kind of go, okay, like, who are you now? And yeah, so it was a lot. It is a lot of
Mhm.
loneliness. I spent, of just working through it on my own and trying to be be sturdy in my understanding of myself so that other people's questions don't shake me when
Yeah.
they get them.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing. You hear a lot of people talk about like, don't share your dreams with, I hear a lot of coaches and stuff like, and on social media say things like, don't share your dreams, because they'll deter you. And,
Well, my
but,
career coach, she actually gave me the metaphor of a baby tiger, which has become, I have a baby tiger on my desk that watches me, but she compared your dream to a baby tiger, which is, it's a baby, so you have to take care of it and nurture it. You have to be careful
Mhm.
who you trust it with, because not everybody's
Right.
going to take care of it. Some people think it's going to be a cat, not a tiger, but you know the power of this dream, and so you have to just watch it grow and be careful and nurture it along the way. And so I think the cautious trust is the way to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's a perfect analogy. I've
Yeah.
never heard that before. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, what helped you find community? How was writing in Substack? Did that change that for you?
I'm still working on it. I I have met one other writer through a friend of mine who she's like, I know somebody who writes. Let me introduce you. So I've met her, and
Mhm.
we were working on starting a friendship. She's very sweet. I've tried to do some writing groups. I joined Story Summit, which is, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a membership, but they have a bunch of classes and they have some ways to join into community there. So I'm searching. I'm finding a few people on Substack here and there, but it's still I mean, I've been working writing for the last week and I've been home. My daughter tells me you never leave the house, is what she says, like the house troll. So yeah, so there's still a bit of lack of community that I'm still struggling to find.
Yeah, I think it happens. You will find it. When you're searching for something, you will find it. And that's part of what I love about Substack. I feel you can find anyone, like whatever your interests are, there's somebody for everyone. It's just a great
Yeah.
platform. I really do love it. One thing I keep seeing in these conversations is that identity shifts in midlife are often, quieter than people expect. Um, that less dramatic, like I said, reinvention. I can't, in this whole, I can't keep betraying what I know anymore. And I think that takes enormous courage. You definitely have shown a lot of courage just through what you sent to me and the writing um, that you sent to me. And so I do want to end with the same question I've been asking everyone in this series. What would you say to a woman who feels the shift happening inside herself, but doesn't quite know what to do with it yet?
I think give it space. Let it have some room, because I think it is scary, and especially if it's a subtle change, which it was for me too. It's hard to recognize, and so I think allowing yourself there are ways to test waters without, if you're not ready to take the full crazy leap like I did. There are ways. Like I said, I took a month off just to see how it goes, but there's even smaller ways of doing it. Start a Substack or pick whatever, or it doesn't have to be
Yeah,
writing, but whatever it is, there
right.
are things you can do to test it, and then as things feel right, I think you can build on that, and it gets easier to feel more confident in what you're doing. And then all of a sudden it's not so subtle anymore. It's much bigger and intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great advice. That's really, yeah, perfect. So before we wrap up tonight, I just want to say thank you again, Lauren, for being on live.
Thank you for having me.
This has really been awesome. And to all of you who continue showing up for these conversations, I see so many faces, not faces, but names of people that show up every time. And that's really encouraging. And just these conversations are just really honest and open, and I really appreciate it. I believe women are hungry for spaces like this, so they can speak their truth about identity and change, growth, and just, purpose, all of it. And that's truly what I hope Worthy and Wild continues to be, a community for women choosing to live more intentionally and courageously and honestly in the season of life. So for those of you who joined and for those on the replay, if this conversation tonight resonated with you, I'd really love you to join our community here on Substack and continue to be a part of these conversations with us. And please make sure you give Lauren Reisner a follow as well. Her writing and her perspective are incredibly thoughtful.
Thank you.
And I'm so grateful that you were willing to come and share your story. I'm going to include Lauren's Substack link along with the replay and notes after the live. So I just really want to thank everybody for being here. Yay. So I see Roseanne and April May, a lot of people that join that are here all the time. Rhonda, Florence, thank you guys so much for being here. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. So thank you, Lauren, very much for joining live. Have a good night, everybody. Love y'all.